From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. Don't read the copy, Ken. Just say it. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
And we're here to discuss the Rebels in live action. That's right. We're going to dive in deep today to one of the big draws and one of the big things in the Ahsoka series. That is the continuation of Rebels. We're going to go character by character, overall thoughts. It wasn't just Rebels 2.0 or so much more. I think you might know the answer there. Before we get to all that, I want to remind you that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Joseph and Jennifer, we're still adjusting to ForceCenter on camera, despite both of us, all three of us, spending most of our lives on stage or in front of cameras. It's sometimes still a little weird for me.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm still working on how to sit correctly. Somehow talking with a camera as opposed to just talking with a microphone has changed the way that I sit. I'm sitting incorrectly. So I'm working on it. We'll see.
Yeah. Jen, how you doing with it?
I'm okay, except I think last week I forgot to mute myself and I took a big slurp of coffee. And I'm sorry to all of you listening. It was like, so anyways.
We are the DJs in the window at the mall like they used to have in the 80s a lot. So you can see that's the, less of a show. But I just feel weird not addressing a camera like a SportsCenter anchor. So it's just where we're at. But it's a lot of fun. And I want to address too, I've gotten this question a few times from ForceCenter listeners. Hey, I listened on the podcast. Do you want me to watch on YouTube instead? The honest answer is both. If you're a podcast listener, keep listening on the podcast. Take us with you. Put us in your ears while you're at work or at the gym, on the road, all those kind of things. But hey, if you want to pop over to the YouTube channel, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. We'll talk about that in a second. That helps as well. But if you're finding us on the YouTube side and you like our faces, hey, there you go. But we do have a podcast available as well. So that's part of it there. Yeah.
I also think if you're a podcast person and podcasts are how it fits into your life, great. With social media collapsing and fracturing, if you have a comment or a reaction, you want to share what your favorite moment that Sabine had in the show was, YouTube is probably where we're gonna see that comment. So even if you're listening on a podcast, it's great to comment on YouTube.
Yeah, that's absolutely true as well. And we are all fighting against swimming upstream and just bobbing along in that algorithm river as well. The comments, likes, all that stuff do help. We're going to dive into some of that stuff first. But we do want to get to a promotion, part of our Ask segment, you could say as well, Joseph.
That is right. We are going to be on YouTube even more later this week. We are going to have a Star Wars Holiday Life Day special stream on Friday, December 15th at 2 p.m. Pacific. We've been loving over the last year and a half, 2 years. I don't know how time works, doing these live streams on YouTube. This one is particularly exciting because we've got some special holiday content ideas that we want to share. But also, this is going to be our first time back doing a Q&A where we can talk Star Wars. We can take any question about Star Wars. We can take any question about anything in pop culture. No holds barred. Let's do all sorts of Kermit fanfic. Let's go. For the holidays, Friday, December 15th, 2 p.m. Pacific.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely. One of my favorite things, we didn't discuss it much even off air, Jen, is you lovingly referring to Kermit as Kermie the entire time we are having that conversation about Muppets.
I can't not do it. I don't know what it is. Kermie. And I just realized with a live stream, I just got some Star Wars pajamas. I might wear my Star Wars pajamas.
Ooh,
yeah.
Nice.
I got a real PJ party.
A PJ party. Most of the time I'm in my sweatpants and slippers anyway, so we'll just complete the
Yeah. This is
Kermie, our PJ party.
Kermie's PJ party. Yes. Every episode is a PJ party for me on the lower half of my body.
Yeah. Same as well. It's the magic of entertainment, what we're doing here. So again, that's Friday, December 15th, 2 p.m. Pacific. That's kind of the time we settled on to accommodate the most time zones we possibly can. It's where we're at, and it's always available on replay. Our holiday live stream is going to be a lot of fun. Normally we go into Life Adventures, but we move that to our cues of the other episode so we can dive right in. Joseph, this is a topic that has been years in the making.
Yeah, that is right. We've talked about it before. We saw Ahsoka, but now we get to talk about it having actually seen Ahsoka, and it is Rebels in live action. We're going to discuss the role of all the characters from Rebels in the Ahsoka series: Sabine, Hera, Ezra, Chopper, Jason, the Loth Cat, and concerns about the Loth Cat. Ryder Azadi appearances. Technically, of course, we could throw Thrawn in there too, but this episode is already bursting at the seams, so we're going to save Thrawn for future discussions. We're just going to start with the big picture. We are all Rebels fans. We all enjoy the animated series. Ken, what is most interesting or important to you about these characters making the big leap to live action?
I think the most interesting thing going in, and what became the most important for me, was getting a little bit of answers, getting a little bit of information, those answers that we need, I should say. That Rebels, I'm in that camp of Rebels is some of my favorite Star Wars content. I know I'm not alone in that, not even here in this show, but it ended. I think Rebels wrapped up, but it had some big lingering questions that in that Star Wars / Filoni style were left to be answered, not just on t-shirts at conventions. And so that became intriguing to me that we're going to get to go on, but also I think that was important to it's not always important to get the answers you want as a fan. That sounds close to demanding, but it was, these are characters we love, and to get the chance to spend more time with them, even in a different format, was important to me. And I was one of the folks that even maybe a couple years before was like, I don't know, I kind of wanted to stay animated because it seems a little more complete. But the adjustment was made, and that ended up being something I enjoyed of the series.
Yeah, I think it's an important distinction, and we can do a larger episode at some point about interconnected storytelling. And there's always been that tip of the iceberg storytelling we talk about in Star Wars, where a cool thing happens by, and you're like, ooh, I would like to know more about that. Like Obi-Wan mentioning the Clone Wars in the original, or just like Captain Phasma, cool character, I'd like to know more. There's a difference between that and what Filoni has really taken to doing in his storytelling, in my opinion, of resolving character arcs, but then actually ending the show on a next time on Star Wars, and actually telling you, I'm showing you that there's more story, and I'm ending plot-wise, not character-wise, plot-wise on an ellipsis, so that you're really leaning in. So it isn't just like, hey, I am obsessed with Ponda Baba and I demand more Ponda Baba storytelling. Instead, it is the creator going, there is a plan for next time. There is another adventure. I'm explicitly telling you. So it really heightens that desire, and in some ways becomes a little bit more of a promise from the creator. And I think that's where I was left with Rebels of, yeah, after the war, they still have more adventures. Sabine and Ahsoka are going to go look for Ezra. Can't wait. This is where Hera ended up. Can't wait to see that fulfilled. Jason exists. All those ellipses. So I really agree with that. Jennifer, for you, what was most interesting or important about seeing these Rebels characters?
I think exactly what you're saying is kind of fulfilling that promise, which I mentioned last week. Dave Filoni said that he was fulfilling the promise of showing Anakin Skywalker in this series, because he was mentioned in A New Hope. And anyways, so I think for an older fan like myself, we grew up not, I don't want to say having broken promises, but things were not resolved, right? Like I always wanted to see Leia training to become a Jedi. And that just was not a reality at that time. And, if you missed a TV show, you might be lucky if it was a rerun, but otherwise you may never see it again. So here we are. It's like getting our biggest wishes granted by Dave Filoni. And I think it's wonderful. And I'm actually surprised by how successful the transition was, which we'll get into more. But I was a little skeptical, and it blew me away.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk each character about that leap to live action, because that can be really hard when you make a solid relationship with the character in one form, one media, one voice you're used to, all that. So we'll talk about that character by character. I think it often comes up when we talk about live action versus animation. I think we're all lovers of animation. We're all pretty deep into the realm of Star Wars, where animation is vital, important storytelling. And for me, it is never less than. But there is just that harsh truth of fewer people watch animation, and the world, the entertainment industry and viewers still, in terms of numbers and money and attention, treat it as less than. So a part of the thrill of the leap to live action is now these characters do feel like, okay, they can't be swept under the rug. They are now fully, solidly a part of Star Wars in a way that is more difficult to be ignored. Another thing I've been excited about these characters, and it goes with Ahsoka also coming from animation, but the Rebels in particular, making this leap to live action. I just think this is a weirder and literally different looking show than we would have got if they weren't coming from animation. I think because this was a continuation of animation, we had so many lead characters are women. In particular, aliens. I mean, look at this show. Look at Thrawn and Ahsoka and Hera and even Hu Yang. The amount of time that he gets as a main character, not just a comic sidekick, a main character. That we've had those debates for years as fans. Like, could we ever see a live action show where the main character is just a Rodian? We're probably still a few steps away from that. But I think because these characters were already loved in animation that can be wilder, pulpier, it brought so much of the wilder, pulpier side of Star Wars to live action. You know, looking at Ahsoka and comparing it to Andor or Rogue One or even Kenobi, where just seeing this many aliens and robots be main characters.
No, I think that's a great point. It's a testament to the success of Star Wars animation. And like you said, I'll echo it. We love Star Wars animation. I say Bad Batch season 2 is my favorite season of Star Wars television so far. But there's that reality. We've talked, even in our industry, even the unions and all this stuff. It's been a year of Hollywood business being out in the public. Animation writers are still sometimes considered less than. Voice actors, how many times do they get replaced in movies by a name who's never voice acted before? It happens, and it's kind of the view, but it's a testament to the success of it and where we are. Where I remember in the old days of Star Wars punditry 10 years ago, I was a fan of Ahsoka the character, but I thought there's no way she's going to lead a show because not enough people know about her. It's just reality. And that's not the case right now. So even though there's still sometimes that hurdle to climb over for animated shows and characters and even fans, I think, Joseph, you just highlighted the testament. The show looks so much like the world that was created there, and it's a continuation of it, despite being a completely different format. That this is where we're at, and that's a good spot.
Yeah, no, and it's just, to me, it's just the ethos of Star Wars is that everyone matters, but then there's like, but no one wants to look at weird head things, so that character can't be a main character, and now they can. You know, the power of animation. We love looking at weird head things. I had not included this in the rundown, but I realized that we should maybe chat briefly about it in our overall. The concern, criticism that this is going to be Rebels 2.0 instead of Ahsoka's show. Ken, how did you end up feeling about that balance?
I think it if I had to put it in percentage, it ended up being like a 60-40 in favor of Ahsoka. and that's only because Ezra shows up later. Thrawn shows up later, which wasn't a surprise to, I don't think, anyone. Sabine is obviously key, but I still feel as though we spent the most time with Ahsoka and maybe dealing with more of her issues than the other characters. Though, as we'll talk with Sabine and Hera and everything, they were very prevalent. But you know what I mean? It's still kind of, what was Ahsoka doing to these characters? What was she trying to get from I still feel it followed her enough. And, you know, like Zeb wasn't there. If Zeb had showed up, if Zeb was there, then maybe it would have been 55.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we could have a whole Zeb conversation of, you know, was he just not around? He's got bad blood with Hera, like, because Carson, he's stationed similar location to Carson Teva. So who knows? Anyway, so sorry to bring up Zeb controversy so early in the episode. Yeah, I agree. I think for me, it was ultimately Ahsoka's show. She was the through line. I feel like Sabine had a real complete character arc. I feel like Hera and Ezra and Chopper were all there. They had great moments. We're going to talk about them. They had great emotions. They had great perspective. They had growth, but it felt more like they were there to support the main narrative. In the main narratives was Ahsoka and Sabine's. So it felt like this is absolutely a balance. I understand it as Rebels fans. Sometimes maybe we're like, I would really love them to just get their own show where we can dive deeper. So I understand that concern about it, but I thought it was a decent balance. Jennifer, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything you both are saying. I think initially when the series started off, it kind of did feel a little too much Rebels 2.0, and then kind of more towards the middle, things started to take shape. It felt very much more Ahsoka's story, and then it kind of went back to Rebels 2.0. But I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it. I think initially I was like, okay, wait, what? But then once I saw where it was going, it all made sense.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, then we can get into each character individually. We're going to start with Sabine. She is such a major character in the show. We might do a full Sabine episode at some point. So there might be more to come. But we're going to start with the leap to live action. Sometimes fans' connections to the voice actors are so strong, so positive. It can be a challenge connecting with the live action version of the character. Jennifer, for you, how was Sabine's leap to live action?
I thought it was actually pretty seamless. I think a really key thing was having Natasha Liu Bordizzo with Rosario Dawson at Star Wars Celebration. They kind of ushered them both in, so it felt very much like, here is your new Ahsoka and Sabine. It's not a competition, right? It's not like the voice actors versus the live action actors. It just felt like now they're part of the Star Wars family. I think that was really, really smart, because by the time that I saw her on screen as Sabine, I just already kind of accepted it. And for like the minute that she was introduced, I was all in. I loved it. I loved it. I felt like she did a really great job bringing her own essence, but still keeping true to the character. And it was a wonderful addition to the character of Sabine. And I maybe it helped also that I did not watch Rebels before watching Ahsoka. I mean, I know that you did, right, Joseph? Did you too?
I did a rewatch like a year out. I think like around a year ago this time I was rewatching Rebels. So it had been a little bit of time, several months.
I wonder if that would have shaped my viewing a little bit differently. But I felt like it was great.
Yeah. Ken, how did you feel?
I feel as though everything overall was really good. Just the look and the feel and the dedication of the people playing. I mean, yeah, it's a tough spot. I mean, Tisa Carr was absolutely amazing as Sabine, especially by season 3. There's some depths that she hits, some cracks in her soul that she discovers as Sabine that are just so powerful. The Trials of the Darksaber episode is some of my favorite stuff. And again, not alone in that one, I know. So I think just naturally there's a bigger hill to climb for Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who I think put her heart and soul in this role. And the design, the look, the hair. I mean, her hair got applause at Celebration, right? When they showed it. I think
styles, yeah.
All styles. And I think it worked. I think overall worked. I think I have to be honest about like the first viewing. I just completed the second viewing of Ahsoka. The first viewing during the height of the strike, I felt a little less connected to this version of Sabine. But that might be because I went on such a journey with Sabine. I'm just trying to analyze it and being honest with myself. Like what is truly my criticism? Is it Natasha Liu Bordizzo as Sabine and the writing of Sabine now? No, not at all. I think, again, heart and soul is there. I had to break away from what I not just had with Sabine, the character as portrayed by Tisa Carr, her story. I thought she emerged on the other side of it. And then so when this picked up, I thought I was reliving some of the same stuff again. The character. But to be fair to Filoni and the team, like there's that chunk of mysterious time where this isn't the same problems. This is a new set of problems and a new set of that I think are present. And I think I was able to put on the shelf, put any apprehension I had or any disconnection I had on the shelf the second time around and just deal with, again, like we always say, what is there and what's the character going through? And there's some period of time we hadn't spent with her. So it wasn't a repeat. It was just, to me now, a newer struggle.
Yeah, it wasn't like, and this is 5 days after they defeated Thrawn on Lothal, and she's still this, angsty older teen. Yeah, I think for me, my relationship is complicated. It's ultimately great. I love Tisa Carr's performance, and I really like Tisa Carr in other roles other than Sabine too. So there's a little bit of a connection there. But out of the gate, the character of Sabine and Natasha Liu Bordizzo was one of my absolute favorite parts of Ahsoka. I think she just has this great charm and depth and manages to play sort of like I'm a little edgy, I'm a little snarky, I'm a little withdrawn, which could all be sort of almost stereotypical. Like, you know, people our age have you know, seen it since John Hughes movies of like she wears a leather jacket and rides a motorcycle and doesn't show up to events she's supposed to. That could be so stereotypical.
Yeah.
And Natasha Liu Bordizzo played it with such charm and heart and pain that I was utterly drawn in by Sabine.
Yeah.
Then I go on a little bit of a complicated of like, ooh, compare contrast to the actual animated character. And I think for me, there's a roller coaster of she should be different. This is a different time period. A lot of what we saw of Sabine in Rebels, she was a cocky, angry teen who refused to tell the people closest to her what her actual problems were in life. That's what's so successful about the Trials of a Darksaber episode of like, your trial is to finally break and tell these people who love you what's actually bothering you. Yeah. And this is now a woman who's gone through all sorts of different adventures, but just age. She's, you know, an elder teen in Rebels. I went to Wikipedia to double check my math. Wikipedia claims she was born 21 BBY. You add that up with the Galactic Civil War, the ambiguous amount of years from the end of you know, Return of the Jedi to this. She might also be bummed out because she's celebrating her 30th birthday alone with a Loth cat. Like she's hovering right around 30. Yeah. So imagine any of us, you know, being the story of our lives when we're being translated from live action to animation, but also jumping from 16 to 30 or 18, whatever she is in Rebels. Like, yeah, that's big by itself. Sorry, I'm going on a bit. The other thing with this is I think there is a real desire to take a step back from animation because the style of animation and voice acting, even when it is grounded, realistic storytelling, is to still be bigger. Zeb in Mandalorian sounds like he's on sedatives compared to Zeb in Rebels, right? Because it's just a style thing from animation. So I think Sabine, what was different to me is Sabine sometimes felt maybe a little muted in live action compared to Rebels. But I think for me, it was the age and the creative choice to be like, let's really, really make sure it's a live action character, not an animated character. And I think for me, there are some times where I think that Natasha Liu Bordizzo is such an amazing, charming performer that I think there was room for her to go a little bit, to be allowed to go a little bit bigger in the direction than she was. Yes. Because I think a little bit of that, ooh, let's not blow the doors off of this. It's live action, not animation. I almost think that there was maybe a little too much correction. So for me, this getting in my head is like, I get the chance to be a writer and an actor and a director. And I don't think this is, for me, it's not an actor thing. It's not Natasha Liu Bordizzo. It was like, there's some times where Sabine on a scale of 1 to 10 would be 10 in the animated series. And she was at about a 7. And I think she could have gone to an 8 or a 9 and still kept it honest and live action-y. Jennifer, you're an actor. You know, what do you feel about that way of looking at it?
That's so interesting. And I think it really does kind of depend on the actor and obviously the director and the writing variation. But like some people are just more like me, a little bit, I'm just naturally more dramatic, bigger. So I got to tone it down. But I know a lot of actors that are so small and you're like bigger, and they still keep it like really it's just kind of, that's their vessel, and they can still be both styles of acting can be truthful. It's just going to be a different way to convey that. So yeah, that's an interesting point. And again, it's because I haven't watched the animated series in a little bit of it's been a while. Yeah, but you're right, she can almost be explosive at times. Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Ben, what do you think about that?
I like you bringing in the age angle. I think that actually helps me a little bit. It's an old-fashioned Star Wars counseling because I commute. It's a good way to look at it. And I'm dying over the John Hughes. I want a freeze frame of "Don't you forget about me."
Yeah, put that music under her. Yeah.
We've lived through that for 40 years of that time, and that was a little bit of the repeat. We keep having this conversation around the word pacing, and quite frankly, I think it's maybe misused at times, not necessarily from us or anyone, but just it's the general conversation around pacing. It's not the speed of the scenes. You can give me the slowest scene in the world. I'm a Game of Thrones fan. A whispered, hushed scene by candlelight for 10 minutes is great to me. It's not the speed of the scene. It's what these characters are learning, how they're moving forward, how they're moving back. It's taking the story and does it move forward. I felt there was a lot of times, you're right, muted. I like either get angry at Ahsoka. Ahsoka's kind of being we're trying to be clean. Well, Ahsoka's being a jerk to you. And I think you're right. Again, how much is that me and my expectations, what with what I'd spent, the time I'd spent with this character for 4 seasons and now several years, almost 10 years, versus what they were deciding to do. A director's job is to make sure all the actors kind of are playing in the same show. And sometimes I made the reference to they started this album with 3 quiet, depressive songs, which is your choice to make. But I think Sabine was shoegazing at times for me when I wanted there to be a little bit more of a raucous guitar solo. And again, that's my expectations versus what they presented, which is against what we have preached for years here. What's there? So that goes, full circle back to the age thing. Not just about the number, but of a little bit of like, hey, I thought I moved forward. It's almost like Sabine saying to me, Ken, I thought I moved forward. We won this war, but my best buddy is gone, and I'm starting this journey to be a Jedi, which I kind of might want to use to get my friend back. And things aren't happening. And then this hero, don't meet your heroes. This person I do love and care for, who took me under a wing, is kind of being mean to me. Now there's robots telling me I'm not even good. Like on the prospect list, I'm number 34, and why not? I'm sullen right now, and so I'm working through that myself, Ken, as a fan, and I like what you said about that. It makes more sense.
Yeah, and I think there are beats where she is sullen and dour, and she should be, because that's what she's feeling. But there are those moments where she starts to get like, I'm rebellious. I push back. I make a mark. That she's an artist. It's like no one tells me where I can make my mark. She's a graffiti artist. That's a part of her soul. She's a Mandalorian. And there are parts in the script where the words, the intent is to push that. And I would have taken some moments where I feel like, it's not about pacing. It's about the overall tone of the show, where there were moments where she is scripted to be a little bit more explosive, and I would have taken a slightly bigger explosion. But again, Natasha Liu Bordizzo's, it's not about her as an actor. It's about that sort of overall tonal choice. I think she was phenomenal and one of my absolute favorite parts of the show.
That's such a great point about matching the tone, because if she had been a little bit bigger, she wouldn't have matched what Rosario Dawson was doing with Ahsoka, which was much more subdued than we've seen her in the past. I guess that's what I liked the Anakin Ahsoka scenes, because it was so big and like more dramatic, right? But that's just me.
It fits with everything we talked about with Anakin's like just really binary choice, barking at people. It really is like, say the line. Say it louder. Like Anakin kind of comes in as this almost tonal coach in the middle of the show. And it's like, faster, louder. It's
incorrect.
A little bit of Lucas. Incorrect.
Yeah,
exactly. That's more intense indeed. You're right.
Yeah. Anakin is one last lesson, Ahsoka. Faster, louder. More intense. Anyway. So let's talk. Ken, you're tipping into this with some really great thoughts. Jennifer, for you, what do you feel Sabine's true goal or motivation was in this show? What did she really want, and what did she really achieve?
I think it was just to find Ezra. I was like, okay, I know you want to find Ezra. But I think ultimately what it was about was reconnecting with her family. It was about, like you're saying, she's, gosh, I didn't even think about that. Almost 30 or 30, living this loner life with her Loth cat. I'm sure misses that and misses that connection. So that's also why maybe it's like reconnecting with one's past, right? Trying to make that, to find that comfort. So I think that was probably her ultimate goal. But it did
Yeah.
feel like it was very singular. Find Ezra, find Ezra.
Yeah. No, I think for me that's what one of the elements of the show that worked really well of it is this explicit concrete motivation of I want to find Ezra. But I think the why was more complex and rewarding ultimately in why she was able to let Ezra go. I think obviously, yeah, she's alone, disconnected, lost her family on Mandalore. She's got Hera, and she could clearly spend time with Hera or Zeb. So it's not like she's just entirely alone. It's not like she's like, I'm sure she could live somewhere else. I think it's partially that she is feeling totally disconnected from purpose and therefore herself. She is a driven character who has that great, edgy leather jacket. You told me I couldn't, so I'm going to bleeping prove to you that I can. Oh, yeah. And I feel like, talked about that, the difference between her in animation and live action. Like, that's what we get to see her as an angry, stick it to the empire, stick it to the man, younger person. And she doesn't have anything to fight for. And she doesn't know if she can fight anymore. And I think it's tied up in this really interesting, I think it's so significant that the real early appearance we see of her is watching that video from Ezra, who's basically saying, in some ways, I trust you to keep on with the task I started. And that's could be interpreted lots of ways. One is please find me.
Yeah.
Literally, one is, I know you can be a Jedi Knight. You can be a selfless warrior. I know you can protect Lothal, but it's all about like, I know you can be this best version of yourself. You can find your purpose and be yourself again. I think so much of the show is, find Ezra is a practical way to access what she truly wants, which is, I need to prove to myself that I have purpose, that I can rise to a challenge. I failed at being a Jedi Knight, and I know I can do that, and I want to prove to myself that I can. Because I almost get the vibe of like, here's a lot of the show is like, of course, being so lonely, and like, I'm sure Hera calls pretty often. You could be running around with her. You could be spending time with nephew Jason. There's a part of her that is locked away, because it's almost, for me, it's almost that like, when you're really depressed and friends invite you out and you're like, why would my friends want to be around this sack of garbage that is me right now? I'm not being what I need to be for them. And I feel like that, to me, that's a lot of it of like, I can complete the mission. I can find Ezra. I can be a Jedi Knight. I can prove to myself that I have purpose, that I have drive, that I can accomplish things.
I'm a driver. I'm a winner.
Yeah.
I really love what you're both saying. Jen, I start with your connection theme, which is so big and powerful in this show. And Joseph, I love the idea of you introducing this purpose. It to me, maybe, and I always try to find what am I connected with? I'm a little bit older than Sabine, but I'm sullen too right now. What is my purpose? But also the connection. There's that new normal push. I really do believe, whether it's super intentional or not, there's sprinkles all through this series of post-COVID pandemic, world's changed type of atmosphere. There's a little bit of Sabine's graduated college and she misses her friends. And wouldn't we all love to hang out with them again? But you have to carry that forward.
And she's only doing Zoom calls with Hera. She could be getting together in person, and she's only doing Zoom calls. Good enough.
That's a great point. Hera's on Zoom a lot. She's on Google Meet at times. And then, this is, I was joking, but then you meet your friend from college and he's got a beard now and he's kind of hanging out with some turtles, and he might be dropping acid. He's listening to a lot of jam bands now. Things are different with him, but he's still your buddy. But we keep going back to this sullen kind of stoic thing that at times pops up as Sabine. I think I like it. It's like, no, this is my purpose. And then you plug it into the bigger picture post this big change, and the purpose has to be bigger. And people around you are saying, it can't just be this. And there's that Star Wars, hey, you got to let some things go. And that, what is attachment and what is dedication? What are the fine lines between it, between love and obsession? And saving Ezra, finding Ezra is a good thing, but that's not the entire picture anymore. Things have changed. And you got Ahsoka showing up with, I think, some valid concerns. We can dive in a little bit with Sabine if we want later on, but the valid concerns about, hey, what you do with this stuff. And I've seen it go wrong, and we know you. We know you're carrying a lot of burdens, but also Ahsoka with a truth that maybe she has to work through and adapt. But Ahsoka's truth is, cool, I want Ezra around too, but Thrawn is the bigger threat, and that's a reality. And it's these multiple truths, which is this theme I've been playing around in my life. It just sometimes there's just multiple truths, and how you reconcile that is maybe how best you go forward, or how you can go forward. And I think that's where she is, and that's part of the goal. But it's a simple connection, Ezra, and it's transforming right in front of her, and that's part of the struggle.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, she absolutely does need and want to see Ezra again for herself. Yeah. But I love that, you know, she discovers that it isn't selfish. It isn't like, I can't go on without Ezra. It's more like, I love to see him again. I wish I could be with him forever. But I realized what I needed was to go on this journey to fulfill this promise to him, to give him a chance to be safe. And I feel like maybe some of her force powers in the sort of the moments behind them maybe could have been underlined differently. But to me, like, that's so much the power of, I really tap into my power and my purpose when it's helping you to get home, because it isn't entirely about my need to be with you. It's about my need to fulfill my promise to you, to find you and to give you the life that you deserve. And it's a nice, selfless Jedi moment.
Yeah, I love that point. I love that point. And you know, this is where I would turn to you, Jen, as a parent, of that line of like, I have, you know, my love and concerns and wants for you, maybe as a friend or a partner or a child, but I have to make sure that they give way to your needs or your goals or who you want to be. And there's some of that push that I think, push and pull, that she ends up landing on. And it's just shown in simply a simple, direct, I'm going to push you away, Ezra. You like literally help you go do what you need to do. And I'm going to figure out for myself. And that can be hard to untangle. Jen, again, I'm not a parent. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I mean, it just kind of feels like she's maybe feeling a little bit sorry for herself in the beginning. She's let her hair just grow, right? It's kind of wild. And then, like you're saying, she finds her purpose and she goes a more selfless path. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a great, I mean, the hair is a great different visual sitting around the couch, let yourself go visual, you know, and I think, you know, putting the armor back on is definitely the, like, I've been in my sweatpants for the last couple of years feeling sorry for myself, time to put on my Mandalorian Levi's of honor and fulfill my purpose by going to the grocery store.
See, we all have that. I have those days where I'm like, today I'm going to wear jeans to the store because it's time again.
It's time. It's time to fulfill my purpose. As I promised Ezra, I'd pick up some vegan hot dogs. So I'm sure we will talk much more, maybe do an episode about this idea that has always been around in Star Wars. We get some great clarification that anyone can use the Force. But I'd like to talk specifically about Sabine's journey within that to become a Jedi. Jennifer, how did you feel about Sabine's journey to become a Jedi? Did you enjoy it? Were you challenged by it? How did it end up for you?
Yeah, I'm going to need some Star Wars counseling because it was fine. I just I don't understand the purpose of it. I think it's because, like, we knew this character so well from Star Wars Rebels. We saw her journey, and I mean, maybe I missed it. It wasn't really teased that she was, I mean, I don't know. I just felt like the focus was that she was a Mandalorian. That was like the focus. And I think the difference between this versus, like, let's say a Finn, it was teased almost from the marketing that maybe he could be Force sensitive. So I went and I knew nothing about that character. And so it's a different entry point where I was literally like, wait, what training? Wait, do I need to go back and watch Rebels again? Because I do not remember her becoming a Padawan. I just felt a little lost about that. I think that the way that it ended up was great. I liked the training sequences. It made sense. But I don't know if we needed it. What was the point of it? What was the purpose? Help me. I mean, I think a part of it is exploring the idea that people have different
levels of natural talent, natural connection to the Force, and it is a choice to train and to pursue. I mean, we could have a much larger conversation. I feel in some ways, I feel like for me, as an analogy, the Force has always been whatever makes you feel connected, whatever makes you feel alive, whatever your talents are, could be called the Force. You know, the Force has always made the most sense to me when I'm doing art, and I feel like I'm tapping into something larger than myself, and it is both the most largest expression of myself, but also I'm tapping into something larger and flowing and intuitive, and it's this mix of total training and total instinct when you draw or when you drum or when you act. So for my life, it's always made sense to me as that. So I don't mind seeing the Force as maybe Han is tapping into it as a great pilot. But Han has so many walls up, he would never train. He'd be like, I don't know, I just do it. And that's him tapping into something. But he's never going to sit and train to move a cup or, put a helmet over his eyes. And Sabine is somebody who feels this inkling. A lot of conversations on social media, and I agree with them, of like the Trials of the Darksaber episode does sort of lean into this isn't just a weapon, it is responding to your soul. You and it are exchanging strength. There's a lot of like, oh, is she tapping into something to use the Darksaber? Other people have pointed out that the engineering skill to build the arc pulse generator that she names Duchess, the weapon that destroys Mandalorian armor that she's so grief-stricken about, that has some similarities to Anakin being a brilliant engineer. So I feel like there's some people sort of looking back. My love of art connected to the Force, it makes a lot of sense to me that this is a flowing, intuitive thing that she does with art. So I feel like in some ways it is there to make this argument that everybody has a connection, and it's how much you are willing to train, to accept it, to rewire your brain, to try for it. So I think there's a larger, like, George has always said this in interviews, let's make it absolutely concrete. But that's one thing. But then there's the character. What does it mean for the character? And I think that's a conversation as well, which I want to have. But Ken, what do you think about what is your Star Wars counseling for Jennifer just about the amount of clues we were given, the surprise, the twist, all that?
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Jen, in a lot of ways, but overall, yeah, we're probably going to revisit this a few times on ForceCenter. I was really excited to explore it, and almost just kind of like I smirked a little bit, like, yeah, this is good because George has always said it. That stuff's gone around the Star Wars sphere, right? Here's George quote, and we know Dave loves and studies under George, and it makes a lot of sense. And I love the Finn thing, and I think Finn's story is still incomplete, and then the argument of how much was clues, even what you're pointing out with Sabine, how much was clues? How much did Filoni think that in 2013 as he's putting stuff together? I don't know. You could probably argue maybe it was even zero, but the Trials of Darksaber stuff has those moments, has those connections. I think overall, again, I love the idea. I love where we're approaching. I think it pays off a lot. I think it's easy. There's a lot of misunderstandings or misinterpretations about Jedi and their purpose. I even saw one recently, kind of going back to, he's our only hope, and Leia. Oh, also this Jedi, also this Jedi, also just this Jedi. And that's just incorrect, because Jedi have this great big, destiny, everything, but also they need to be where they need to be. That was the genius, I thought, behind the Twin Sons episode of Obi-Wan telling Ezra, I know you feel this is your fight. This isn't your fight. The Force has not led you here. Your journey's elsewhere. So there's this big picture of, can we recontextualize what it means to be a Jedi and how you get there? And, the skill thing is good. It's the problem that maybe I had initially, or maybe I really understand your struggle, Jen, is why Sabine, why now? Which, Joseph, to your point of looking at the character, I think is a valuable conversation to have, and we can have some of it here. But Jen, I'm with you. It was like, why her? Why now? It was a shock. It was like, I don't feel as though I really felt that was her path. There was other focuses. It's like learning after 9 years that a podcasting partner was a deadhead at one point, Jen. You know, we all could be great. We all could be Grateful Dead fans. We all could. It's just how much dedication and how many Birkenstocks you want to buy.
Some people have a different natural talent and natural aptitude for it, which I would have to work at. Yeah,
I would have to work at.
Flow.
Yeah, it's like I bought Touch of Grey. I like him enough. But that was so Jen, that's where I agree with you. Whether or not I can help you or not is I had that like, okay, I love this idea, but why with this character and why now?
Right.
Again, we hadn't seen them. We hadn't seen them even have that much of a conversation of Ahsoka going, hey, have you ever considered? And we can imagine maybe that happened. That's another fireside conversation. But so anyways, that doesn't help you, Jen, but there's a struggle in me at times over that issue.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah, I think for me, and this is one of the challenge points of the Ahsoka show, is that there's, like we were talking about, those tip of the iceberg Star Wars storytelling moments where like, oh, that'd be cool, or this answer has been teased and I'm waiting for it, and it's kind of fun and it makes you lean forward. There are some other things in the show where I feel like, just for me to most be on the page with this character, to feel what they're feeling, there's some information being withheld that I really wish wasn't. And for some, I think it's a fun mystery at first of like, oh, they trained together and it fell apart. Why? And we get that answer. But for me, what we don't get, which is absolutely crucial to me emotionally, is who started this relationship to be between Sabine and Ahsoka, and why? Was Ahsoka at a point where she's like, I need to face my fear, and I see something in you, Sabine. Do you want to try it? Was Hera like, kid, I've been with you a long time. I think Ezra meant something more when he said complete your journey. You know? And did Hera play matchmaker and put them together? Did Sabine drag her feet? Did Sabine sit there watching that video of Ezra and say, I trained with the Darksaber. I felt a little something. And did she go to Ahsoka because she so wanted it? I do miss not knowing how that relationship started. We learn eventually why it crumbled, and that the why it crumbled is really valuable from Ahsoka's perspective of a fear that she's going to pass on the darkness she feels she inherited to Ahsoka, and that Sabine will use her powers to, you know, get revenge on the galaxy for the murder of her people. That all works great is an answer for Ahsoka about how it fell apart. But I feel like how it started would help people who struggle with Sabine's journey.
And that could have been handled whether it was in a flashback, or why not make this season about that, about her discovering this and having that moment. Obviously would change the whole arc of the series right now. But I don't know. I just felt, that's why I was like, wait, what? Did I miss something? Oh shoot, my visual dictionary, like what's going on? Like I don't like not being clued in that way. Or if it had been explained in the animated series, if that conversation had happened, then I could go back to it and be like, now I see. But when I'm having to like visualize it, that's where I was struggling. Yeah. I liked how it ended up, but yes, who started it? Who
started it and why? And I think for me, like, I guess like the counter answer, Star Wars counseling myself would be, well, whatever happened, Sabine wanted it. So, you know, hey, did Hera push her? Did Ahsoka push her? Did she push herself? Whatever happened, she clearly wanted it because she's pining for it, in my opinion. It's not just pining for Ezra when she's watching that video. It's pining for, he's telling her how to be a Jedi. Like, you have to, sometimes a Jedi has to make these selfless, you know, sacrifices. And she's like, and the sad conversations with Hu Yang, where he's like, well, if you want to come back, just ask. So she clearly wants to come back. So as much as I would find it richer to know the starting point, what I try to focus on, again, counseling myself, is, well, the most important starting point is Sabine wants this. She wants to be a Jedi. What does that tell us about who she is and what she wants? And does she accomplish it? And that's where I try to hook into it emotionally.
No, it's keeping with things that we've said here for years. And I agree with you. There's enough information there that, yeah, you can deal with what's there and the why. We always ask about the why. Star Wars wants you ask why. I think at times there's some of that emotional canon is missing. I think that's a why. Is this the theme of this? Hey, I chose this and I've let myself down, or hey, you chose me.
And I never believed in it to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah. It's quote Will Smith in Men in Black, you know, hey, you chose me. All right, sport. But and that's a why. That's not just a how. It's not just who Yang, you know, sitting there and saying, here's some facts, as he does at times and does in a wonderful David Tennant way, causing Carson Teva just to go, yeah, okay. But what's the theme here, right? Is it I've let myself down, or I let you down? Combination of all of it. That those little things, signposts were missing for me at times. That's something I agree with you. But at the end of the day, we always want to say, hey, let's. This, you're right, Sabine. Whatever happened, she does kind of want to be back there.
Yeah. So what I enjoyed about her journey was in trying to tie it to her character and the why of her character is I feel like she's a kind of character who does not like to be told she can't, that you don't have it in you to do this. So like, I think she's a kind of character, especially when she's young. If somebody's like, don't climb that mountain. She's like, well, I had no interest in climbing the mountain before, but I'm going to climb the hell out of it now because I am somebody who proves that it can be done. And particularly if it can be done to help people and to help my friends, I'm going to climb that mountain better than anyone else has ever climbed it in my life. And so I think I love the clarity of Hu Yang of being like, your natural talent is for bleep. You know, the Jedi Order would not have accepted you. I love that detail for just general lore, but also for what it does for the character of Sabine. Of it is a truth that anybody who works at this can find a way to tap into it, but you're really going to struggle because it sets off her like, I'm told I can't do something.
Yeah.
And what I like about her personal journey is she needs to find the why of tapping into the Force for herself.
Yeah.
She knows how to train. They make a point of she knows how to train with weapons. She knows how to fight. She's not going to be able to move a cup. And I love that she's just like, I'm doing an exercise. She can finally tap into the Force. And again, I think maybe this could have been highlighted, underlined better. But for me, what I get out of it is she can finally tap into it. She finally moves that lightsaber, finally does the big Force push when she's clear on her purpose, which is to help Ezra, to save and defend, to fight, because you got fighting spirit, but to fight in this like do or die. It's exciting. It's to save other people. So for me, that it's sort of like the arc of I'm told I can't do something. When I find the reason why I want to do it, then I can tap into something and do it.
I really love that, and Jen, curious to see if any of this is changing your view on it here. That it goes to the why. I think you're absolutely right. First of all, in my life, if someone tells me I can do it, that's when I have a problem and run away. But the why you move the cup, that's a great way to look at it, Joseph. Cool power, but why? Why do you want this power? We know why Ahsoka thought she wanted this, and why she why this broke down from Ahsoka's point of view, which probably has some truth to it based on what she knows. But getting to cool, you want the lightsaber, you want to be able to Force push, you want all this stuff. And in the end, the why is to, in a way, let him go and go on his journey, which was to save him and find him and things that were valuable as well. I really like that kind of angle on it because it's a big Star Wars thing. Anyone can train. That's been established. Now you have to ask yourself why. That's big.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like, again, the real clarity of the Jedi Order would not have picked her up. You know, they were looking for babies who are, you know, knocking over their playpen because they did a Force push when they had gas. They're looking for like, you know, babies who can't be controlled. You know?
Yeah. I do think though, someone knows who approached who first. I think as an actor, I would ask and be like, well, did I approach Ahsoka or did Ahsoka see it in me? Because that informs all of your choices as an actor from that point on, right? And so somebody knows, because it's one of those things like if somebody sees that within you, but you weren't even thinking about it, you're like, oh, well, now I really want to do it. I didn't know that. Or if like there's a different type of hunger, if you're like, I want this, I know I can do this. Like, it's just a slight variation. So I guarantee you, someone get those scripts because I bet there's some notes there.
I don't want to.
You mean the actor script with
the actor scripts, to be clear.
They're scribbled in notes. Yep. Of like, oh, I asked to train and I failed myself, or I never believed I could do this.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to get to just like, hey, what do we think? But what do we think? I kind of think there's a little bit of Sabine asks, Ahsoka says no, and Sabine says F that. We're doing it. And then it's it's kind of bad. That's funny.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it is just all about that. I promised I would continue Ezra's journey, and I'm a little unclear. He wasn't super clear about what that means. So I think I want to be a Jedi, but why? Yeah,
it speaks to Joseph. You've talked about this before, so I don't mean to talk out of school if I am, but like where you were like, you like clarity in emails. Point 1, point 2, question 1.
Oh yeah.
Ezra's email left the last thing.
Yes, and he can't complete your journey to where? Did you owe Hondo money? Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. No. So much to explore, and we will talk about it more. But there's some really, really fascinating stuff there. As we wrap up our discussion about Sabine, were there any favorite Sabine just moments for you, Ken, where you just enjoyed the character?
It seems so simple, but we're going on this deep dive, and I'm sharing, especially at the beginning. It wasn't that. There was never one point where I was like, oh, this isn't my Rebels. Never. I think the guy, and a lot of it was the visuals, and that's a great point, Joseph, of just like it felt like it at times in a wonderful way. But when the armor was on and the helmet was on and the blasters were out, I love a lot of the Sabine with the lightsaber stuff, her and Shin, great stuff, great visuals. But there was those moments where I was like, yeah. Sabine, man, that's who she is, and that really worked for me. And there's just a lot of those moments. I like a lot of the quieter moments with Ezra were some of my favorite too, where I felt, because it was, I think by design, these two pals are back together, and it felt like the pals I used to hang out with.
Yeah, the siblings, they express their love by bickering is something obviously that audiences loved, and I was there with them. How about you, Jennifer? What moments of Sabine sparked for you?
I liked all of it, but I especially loved the first episode, and I was tense because I thought, okay, how is this going to be? How is she going to do? And I just fell in love with Natasha Luberdizzo's performance. And it was just the small moments, right, of getting to see her feeding her Loth cat and just being in her space. And what is that like? And taking all the time to figure out that map. There was just something kind of like when I put on the Lo-Fi Girl and I just watch her with the rain, like it just was like, oh yeah, I could live in this world with Sabine and just see what is her daily life like? Who is she? I feel like it really gave so much insight into the character at that point, and it allowed for me to just, I don't know, just be a part of her world.
Yeah. I really do love that hoverbike intro. I know I mention it all the time. I think it's just kind of a combination of, it's a burst of energy.
Yes.
I think the Kiner music throughout is phenomenal, but that's one of those moments of like, ever since the rock beat in the wall climbing scene in the Clone Wars movie when they're climbing the monastery on Teth. And there's the like weird rock music that back in 2008 is like, what is this? Ever since then, Kiner music has been playing with different sounds in Star Wars, and that music is so aggressive there, and it just sounds so much like Sabine. It is the kind of punky, coolie, like, yeah, I skipped out on this ceremony, but it tells us so much about her. Like, I don't feel like being lauded as a hero because I do not feel like a hero today. But also just the cool scooting under the like, yeah, no, you can't stop me, and the other fighters being like, yeah, we really can't contain her.
You're right.
Yeah, it's a great introduction to the character, particularly if you've never seen her.
I really like one of the things you just said there, Joseph, about that scene. That I know we're trying to move on, but it was on the surface exactly what it. Hey, she's skirting her duties and responsibilities, but I like that there's a little bit of what you said. I don't feel like I'm that person right now. That's what's going on. I think that's a powerful start to her character.
Yeah, absolutely. But but on the surface, it looks like I'm having fun. I'm
thumbing
my nose at authority. Yeah.
Punk rock, it plays like that, and the music's wonderful. I agree with you. The whole sequence is great, but yeah,
Yeah, all sorts of other great moments. The one other one that I wanted to mention is I do love the fake force push to Shin, where Sabine's not feeling it yet, but she convinces Shin like she's gonna force push me, and then no, a Mando trick.
Right.
Yeah. Really great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Final thought for me is I would have loved to see her more actively engaging in art, because that's such a big part of her character. We saw art that she had previously made. I thought that was a great way to establish that this used to be her home. This used to be her bunk. Here are all her doodles on Ahsoka's Jedi ship. Hera convinces Ahsoka to bring her the puzzle because it is her understanding of art and art history that's going to let her see it in a different way. So it is there, but there's a part of me that's like, I'm so connected to Sabine as an artist. I would have loved to just see her tag the hell out of something, when she's feeling her oats.
Yeah, I like that.
Or even like talking, having the moment with Ahsoka and having this heart to heart, and just not really like just being distracted a little bit, or a little bit more with her guard up by drawing, right? Listening, but I don't know. It just could give her something to do, and I don't know. Also showing us this character, side of the character.
I have my Sabine action figure. It's a deluxe that comes with a Loth cat, which is in the package with no plastic window, so I have to open it. So I'm looking forward to opening it after recording in celebration. Any final Ahsoka thoughts or Sabine thoughts before we take a break?
No.
All right, then I think we're on to our recommendation, Ken.
That's right. We have a ForceCenter recommends. This is an audio book we think you should try, especially if you're homesick from school. All right. That's what we think as well. We are recommending Ahsoka by E.K. Johnston. What a great time to revisit that book and all the lessons Ahsoka's learning in that book. We love it around here. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audio book. All right. Quick break. On the other side, we dive into more Rebels characters in live action. And we are back. We had a check in the timer, a very robust discussion about Sabine, and I don't even think we're done with a lot of things around that character. But Joseph, there are more characters to explore.
Yeah, let's see if, like Sabine, we can hit the gas on the hover bike. Don't want to, skip these characters and not give them their due, but I do think Sabine she's the most major character, biggest arc in my opinion. But let's talk Hera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Jennifer, how did you feel about Hera's leap to live action? Did you feel like Hera?
I felt like Mary Elizabeth Winstead was the closest to the animated character for me. I think it was a combination of her voice, her look, and I love her just as an actor. And so I was like, oh yay, I can't wait to see what she brings. And she brought it. And pretty amazing. Because you'd never want it to be an imitation or an impression, right? But I thought that she really nailed it.
Yeah, I really agree. I think I had no bumps on who this character was, voice, look, even adjusting to I'm spending a lot of quality time with the Twi'lek as a main character. That's a lot of makeup and head tails and contacts, and I think she totally connected. I think obviously she's gone through changes and we're going to talk about them, but not as significant. 30 to 35 or 30 to 38 is not as big of a change as 18 to 30 or, whatever. My math is off, but you both know what I mean. Yes, people have been adults for an upsettingly long time. So I think there is that. I think it's also like, we're seeing her in familiar roles. We're seeing her as a leader, a pilot, a maternal presence. And for those of us who spend time with books or video games, it's not just Rebels Hera. We've spent a lot of time with this Hera, who's not leading the Ghost crew. Ezra and Kanan and Sabine are gone. We've spent a lot of time in books and video games overall with General Syndulla. So I think that made the leap easier for me as well. Because I've also felt like I'm seeing that book video game character in live action. Ken, how'd you feel about Hera?
I think that's a great point. I think it definitely was Hera for me. And this is proof to myself that this was an Ahsoka show with maybe Sabine right there on the top ledger with her. Because there were times, though, I wanted more Hera. Not the Hera I felt I knew, but just kind of like, I wanted her, and we had a lot of time, right? And we had a lot of scenes with it, but there was times where I was just like, I almost want to follow her around the chambers of the New Republic, yelling at people. Like there's an important thing going on with this. So it wasn't that the character was not the character from Rebels. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I think, did a pretty good job with it. It was just like, I'm ready. Maybe I'm ready for Rebels 2.0 now. Maybe I want more time with her, because I think this makes some points, Joseph. We've seen her video games. She's talked at you in a video game and sent you on a mission. We got to spend time with her in Alphabet Squadron, all this stuff. And so it's like, and her and Jason, and also there were some great moments. It was there, but I wanted more. So that's a testament to, hey, they did a good job with it. I just felt almost shortchanged because it was the Ahsoka series, which sounds like an insult. It's not. I was enjoying what's going on, but every Hera scene, I wanted more. I wanted more of what was going on.
Yeah, I really, really agree with that. I think it was the thing that, yep, it is a Ahsoka show, and Sabine has an emotional arc, and Hera's going through stuff, which we're going to talk about. But yeah, I almost wanted, like, and now where's the Hera episode of the show? Because I just want to spend more time with her.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the different roles in the Rebels animated series. Hera, I think, fills a mother role, a maternal role. She is really explicitly there for everyone else's physical and emotional needs. That was one of the things I was most struck by on my rewatch about a year ago, how much she keeps track of what different people need, what they're willing to talk about and when and not, and kind of keeps it like everybody like, leave Ezra alone right now. He's feeling this. Kanan, Sabine's not willing to talk about that. Like she's keeping track of what everybody needs. As well as having her own internal journey. Hera and Kanan often refer to Sabine and Ezra as the kids. In Ahsoka, we got to see her as the biological parent of Jason, but in my opinion, still filling a maternal role for many characters. Jennifer, how did you see Hera's mother role in Ahsoka?
I thought it was really well done because it never felt over the top or telegraphed, like this is the mama bear of the crew, right? Like it felt very organic. And I actually felt a little bit more well, because it's animated, so it's going to be different. Sorry if you guys can hear my daughter; she keeps coughing.
No, it's fine.
I am in my mother role.
Well, we talk about mothers. We do not want to hear any children.
That was also a great moment. Actually, in this series, was seeing her having this really tough conversation with the senators, right? And with all of them and kind of arguing, and then having to go right into being a mom to Jason and like shifting her tone, and she can't take it out on her kid, and it's not his fault, right? And so it's just like I liked seeing that duality, and even the moment where he's like, "Mom," and she's like, "Hold on, I'm having a conversation," where he's listening to the lightsabers in the ocean, right? Just so many great little details like that. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead in real life is a mother. And I really felt, not that you have to be, right? She's an actor, but there is something that just like, it just gets in your bones when you become a parent. It just makes it a little bit easier to act it because you've been there.
She sounded exactly like friends who are newer parents and have been like invited Sarah and I out to dinner and be like, and I just want to be like, it's okay. I know you can't, because it's the to the kid,
right?
And then it was perfect with their conversation with Carson, and then finally was a good listener to Jason. Ken, how did you feel about her maternal role, both biological and just sort of not even symbolically of I don't know, just a general maternal presence for anybody who needs that kind of support, gentle push in the right direction?
Yeah, I think it was there, and that's one of the all the animated characters and the voice actors behind them set such a high bar, and Vanessa Marshall absolutely set a high bar, especially as you spend more time with Hera. Man, it's a wonderful character, and I think one of the things that translated really well was what you're describing, what you're both describing to me, is this just sense of responsibility, care and concern, yes, but a responsibility for everyone here, so that even hey, your buddies are fighting. Ahsoka and Sabine are fighting. You might not have had anything to do with it. Again, we don't know that specific why, but Hera's going to take some responsibility for it, and she feels as though she needs to help them. And the Ezra thing, that's her big thing, right? And Kaz's dad makes sure to point that out about, what are you doing this for? What's your why? Is what he was saying officially to the government. I don't trust your why, and that was. I think a great point. Maybe why I think I felt sometimes I wanted more Hera, of her analyzing, like, yeah, okay, that's fair, but I feel responsible, and that showed up naturally and clearly. The stuff with Jason we talk about in a bit was there to just drive it home. But it was right. It was not overbearing. It wasn't sitcom like, I'm the mom around here. It just was real and felt, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I'm certainly open to having a different word for it than maternal. I think I just really picked
Yeah.
up on all those cues in Rebels, but I think she is almost like the adult in the room too is a different way to say it. Of that, everybody feels that they're not going to get judged; they're going to get nudged in the direction they should probably go if they go to this person for advice. And I think I really like seeing that. You know, it's just like the tone of just like we've already had this conversation of, you know, telling Ahsoka, like, you know who you should bring this to. You know, it's not a new idea, all that kind of thing. I think I liked how much she was just like aware of Ahsoka's pain and not entirely understanding why. Like, I love that moment where she's just trying to kind of be fun and conversational because they're done with their business meeting when she's on the holo in, I think, like episode 2 or 3. And Hera says to Ahsoka something along the lines of like, well, I'm sure you were a problem for your master too. And then Ahsoka gets real dark and there's that look on Hera's face. It's like, oh, damn, what did I step in? Yeah. It's a great moment. And then for Jason, I was really thrilled with, I didn't expect to see her as someone who had become consumed with fear, but I did like the hey, your father died being a hero to save everybody. Your your stepbrother in spirit, Ezra, disappeared from our lives, saving everybody. There are no Jedi left, and I've watched them hunted my entire life. Not super anxious for you to pick up a lightsaber, kid. Like, I really liked that. And maybe I'm reading things into it, but I really liked that she was protective. He was clearly interested. He wasn't starting to train anytime soon. There's a very funny conversation with Hu Yang of like, you get to see a Jedi starship. Like, hey, can you teach? Do you know how to build lightsabers? Yes. Can you teach me? No. Yeah. So I really thought it was this great balance of it isn't fear, it's protectiveness, and this is not the right time. Jen, how did you read her relationship with Jason, and in particularly the Jedi question?
I loved it because she handled it so well, right? She didn't totally like shoot him down and be like, no, you're never doing that. I don't want you to end up like your father, right? It wasn't like that. It was just like,
you're not getting into podcasting.
Right. It was just like, okay, yeah, you're allowed to express these feelings. But in my head, I know it ain't happening, kid, right? And it's just like giving him that safe space and that look of fear of just knowing like, oh shoot. And then when he actually does have these great abilities, it's just like, oh no, you know?
Yeah, she clearly takes them seriously, and she's clearly not trying to get him to deny them.
Yes,
it's just like we're not jumping into this training thing quite yet.
Yeah. Funny thing, Meg Ryan shared this story when she saw her son Jack Quaid in a theater production, I don't know, in high school or something, and her ex-husband Dennis was in the audience as well. And she said that his performance was so good, she had her hand in her head in her hands, and she was like, and she looked over, and Dennis was the same way because they knew. They didn't want their kid to go into acting, but he was too damn talented. They knew his future. That's Jason.
Yep. Jason's a Nepo Jedi. There's nothing to be done about it. Nothing to be done.
Oh, no.
It's going to happen. His entire family now is all. So other elements of Hera's character was obviously on display. She's also an ace pilot, a war veteran from an embattled world, a military general, and just a leader in general. Ken, did you have any favorite moments highlighting those other roles, those other parts of Hera?
I just liked taking all those roles into what she is now. Like you said earlier, a general. She's got to take those meetings. And that's part of a transition in life too. Talking about the new normal. She's already kind of been through it, but like you're not just all those things by yourself. You don't get to just run out. And if you do run out, there could be consequences. It's a responsibility of leadership. It's a responsibility of supervision. And so I liked kind of her telling her co-pilots there, the Mon Calamari and the other officer, they're kind of middle management, right? And she's like, no, I got to go take this meeting. I liked a lot of those things. It was Hera where she is right now. And then she has the moments where kind of like, hey, I'm going to go do what I'm going to do. When we got Leia in our corner, 3PO's doing us a solid, and that's Hera as well.
Yeah. I really liked seeing like the one good, piloting moment when they're trying to catch up with the ship in part 2 and put the tracker on it. I would have loved to see Hera ace pilot just a little bit more, but that's not necessarily where she is in life right now. So what the moments I did love is like, yeah, she's a leader and she's working within this system. And when she breaks the rules, there are consequences, as you're saying, Ken. But it's just fun to know that this is a character who's like really level-headed and can absolutely function in a bureaucracy, but is also a born revolutionary street fighter. And I love those moments where General bumps up with Street Fighter, where like some of the other bureaucrats you're talking to do not have that background. And I love when that, like, she flares to life in those moments for me, like when she's getting the pushback from the people who are you know, Imperial sympathizers working with Morgan Elsbeth. And like, I can't remember the exact line, but like, classified from a general, like that level of, oh no. And when she slips in the meeting with Ziona and just says, were you in the war? It's like there's this battle between who she is of like, I can be a bureaucrat, but I am also, I want to slip a knife between your ribs because that's the way I was raised. And that and you could, I can fight. You want to fight? Let's go. Let's fight. You know, and that were you in the war was so about like, are you just a bureaucrat? Are you a, you know, not a paper pusher because it's Star Wars, a data pad pusher, or can you back it up like I can?
Yeah, that's very real. It's very real.
It's very real. Yeah, I mean, Ken, you have that sometimes since you have that background in security. And
well, one of my I already talking thinking about my old boss. He retired LAPD, and he got to the rank of lieutenant, and then he was still out in the field and in pursuits and arresting people, and they captains and you know, chiefs and would be like, Mike, you've got to stay at your desk. That's the job now. And he ended up retiring early because they hurt his back because he just couldn't stop. And so it's just the reality. And he had a lot of because there's tracks you can get on, and I'm not from military, but you know, it's like, are you an officer or are you an enlisted man? And it's like, sometimes you can look at the officers and be like, you haven't been out there like I have. And that's a very real thing that Hera would have and carries with it. That is one of those moments that I really enjoyed, where I think Hera showed up like, what the hell have you done, Senator?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Do you know how bad another war would be? Personally, do you? No. Jennifer, any other moments of Hera highlighting all those different roles that she has?
I love that she did it so seamlessly, and that she made moms look good, because a lot of time the way that mothers are portrayed is like very harried, which I am. But you know, she had it together, and she was able to be a mom and also be in battle and do what she needed to do. And also explain to Jason, you know, sometimes when you're a general like me, you don't have to follow the rules. I just loved it. She just handled everything so much like a badass. I aspire to be just like her.
Yeah, absolutely powerful. So I went on a little bit about Jason and all that, but how much Jason anxiety do you guys have about his future? Will he be trained? I mean, we're on this constant loop now in Star Wars of like, what a great, wonderful, innocent young Jedi. Who will it be slaughtered by Vader, Kylo Ren, Markian Ro? Who's gonna slaughter Nubs? You know. So, do you find yourself thinking how he will evade doom in a bleak future for Jedi during the sequel trilogy era? Ken?
No, it hangs over. Yeah, it hangs over. But I think Ahsoka's a great character to look at and be like, hey, what you thought, what we might have been believing was going to happen, her being slaughtered in Order 66, that it didn't happen. They found a way to change that story up. So I hold on to that hope. I'll say this: I was surprised, and this even goes back to when we first, we being the Star Wars community, thought we saw the head of Jason in the Ghost cockpit there. I was surprised Jason was in the series, and they had that this much of Jason was there. Why? I just thought maybe like I don't know. We don't know what to do with that character. We don't know the ending, but we'll get to it. There's a lot there, but it's such a part of Hera that it was for me. Again, other people might not have been surprised. Maybe you two weren't surprised, but for me, I was like, this is who she is and who she is in this time. And I just felt in some of those books and comics, Jason was on at summer camp, and we just never saw him.
Yes, He was not spoken of. Yeah. So I really, when they did finally like announce the casting and that he was going to be in it, I really had to like, this might be one scene to acknowledge he's real. You didn't imagine him. It wasn't a fever dream at the end of Rebels. I didn't expect him to be in it quite this much, and I was really delighted with it. And I do just feel like, again, one of the great things of Ahsoka is this whole idea of introducing another galaxy and not like just like, hey, any Jedi you want to live, throw them in another galaxy. But it's more the like, remember, there's many, many paths, so I can imagine a story for Jason where maybe he does train with Luke for a while at his school. But, his father's great lesson to Ezra was find where you're most needed. So maybe Jason is alive and well during the sequel era, but it's like the galactic battle isn't where I'm needed. I'm needed on this planet doing this thing, and maybe he's flying in the Ghost in Rise of Skywalker. We don't know. Jennifer, what are your Jason anxieties or hopes? I
was also surprised by how I don't want to say heavily, but he was featured a lot more than I thought. I thought that it would just be a quick moment. But no, he had several scenes and a crucial moment with the ocean. So yeah, I mean, I do wonder why did they have him so heavily featured? Is it because they want to draw on younger audiences? Is it for story? Is it being teased that something's going to happen in season 2 or with another property? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to be totally trained. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm skeptical.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of the Ahsoka show was, putting just pieces on a board and moving them around so that they can be used in future storytelling that may or may not happen. All right, let's talk Ezra. How was his leap to live action for you, Ken?
Well, this is a ForceCenter disagrees moment. Jen, you said Hera was your favorite in terms of the jump. This was the best one for me, hands down. Let's debate. No, but for me, I loved Ezra. I love the performance. I love the energy. And again, I've confessed that maybe the show was a little too dour for me at times. And when he shows up, it's this casual, hey, I've been out here all along just waiting for you. How you? And there was an energy. There was a humor that I feel not that I was missing. I just needed at that time. I felt all the characters, all the performers, I think, look good. I don't think they look drastically different or anything than their animated characters, but he to me was the most pinpoint accurate. And yeah, I know he had those wonderful contacts in, but it just worked for me. I really was won over right away.
Yeah. Jennifer, how about you?
I loved him. Yeah, I mean, okay, all right. Hera was one of my favorites, but so was Ezra. I just thought,
don't back off of it.
Oh my gosh, Iman Isfandi was so good. And it's one of those things where it's like every time he was on screen, I just had a smile on my face because I'm like, oh, this guy. It's just fun to watch. And I just felt like it was a great leap from animation to live action. And I mean, that's tough because he was so likable in the animated series. And he was just as likable in the live action. So bravo.
Yeah, I agree. The note I made on my sheet here was flawless. I think that there was a power in that we've talked about with Sabine in Hera, where we saw so much of who the characters were, but for all of them, there was an element of like pining for a little bit of like almost the story to give them room to more fully express themselves. For Sabine to really let go, and maybe for Hera to be in that cockpit or just beats Fiona's ass behind a bar. It's a little bit of an exaggeration. Ezra was just so full of life and just he was a full expression of Ezra, while also being at a different point in his life. That is great to see him grown up, 30, having been through a lot and not having any of his enthusiasm dampened. I think we can talk about pacing or tone, but even just from the perspective of Ahsoka and Sabine and Hera are all struggling. They're going through a lot. It's a hard time. And we get to meet Ezra on the happiest day he's had in like 8 years. Yes. And he's just like,
that's great.
Hell yeah. Let's go. After all these years, I knew it, and he's got his little notey buddies.
Yeah.
but it is also just the performance for Iman Esfandi. It just energy, enthusiasm, capturing Ezra's make it up as we go attitude of I've got half a plan and that's enough. It's fine. I'm just happy to be alive. So it was absolutely the Ezra I knew from animation, but he also did feel older, calmer, centered, not questioning his abilities, not questioning his relationship to the Force. Acknowledging like, yeah, I probably went through some real rough stuff, but I'm not focused on it right now. A great expression of Ezra. And then Ken, to your point, I know I mentioned this another time, but I think it's really important. I think because we've been telling stories about characters with lots of trauma in the Star Wars animated shows with Kenobi or Boba Fett, even Din Djarin is, you know, he's a tight-lipped character. He's a taciturn character. That we haven't had this Han Solo, Obi-Wan in the prequels, Finn and Poe level of just a guy happy to be on an adventure exploding with charm, because we've been busy with characters who are going through horror. So I think it was just felt like this jolt of like, that's Star Wars. That's that kind of going back to OT Han Solo vibe coming from this character, because it was appropriate, because it's where he was in this moment. We were finding him.
I agree with that. I like that was a vibe. And again, it's all personal interpretation, maybe personal needs as you as an audience member at that point. And I needed Ezra just as much as all the other characters in the show. Show up. This party's a little quiet. This place is dead anyways. And then Ezra shows up and turns up the music.
Yeah, no, the DJ arrived at the party and dropped some beats is great. So we get a brief picture of his life in exile with the Noti. What did you get from just this brief picture about how Ezra might have changed, or who is he as a character? What kind of gaps did you fill in, Ken, thinking about where he is now based on how we found him? My Noti and me. I love this. There's a point when they're on Peridea, right? Peridea, where I think Shin and Balin and Sabine and you know that thing, and they're letting Sabine go out and hunt for Ezra. And there's this kind of, I forget the exact line, but there's raiders, marauders, and they kill and they destroy and they take from everyone. And that's kind of this landscape that Sabine's going out to. And when she finds Ezra with this group of you know, Noti that they don't have weapons, they have defense, and he's doing good and he's connected with them. He's broken the cycle. That shows a lot about him. That's how he survived. He didn't survive by going out and destroying. He didn't join in the marauders. He didn't kill the marauder. I'm sure he's fought and maybe destroyed some, but you know what I mean? He's formed this community. He's done it out of protecting those around you. It's that big Star Wars theme we go back to. We just celebrated an anniversary with Last Jedi. I saw my Facebook memories. That protect and fight for what you love thing is big. And that's what I learned from him. And that's what I imagine he brought into it, where whatever happens when that Star Destroyer gets there and he goes one way and Thrawn goes the other way, like R2 and 3PO and New Hope. I think he shows up with those skills. He shows up, and you mentioned, but there's such a peace in him. Doesn't mean he didn't have long nights. Doesn't mean he didn't get angry, didn't doubt it. But we discover him. I want you to say it so wonderfully. It's the happiest day of his life in a long time. But he knows his purpose. And what does he do right away? I'm going home. Which we all took as like, oh no, he ain't gonna make it. But no, it was, I'm going home. This part of my chapter, this part of my life, this chapter is ended, and I'm ready for the next one. That's all I need to know about Ezra right there when we first meet him and what he's talking about. Yeah, no, I love that. I think that episode where we get to see both him and Thrawn is a great light side, dark side essay. The you know, ravaged ship with the cultish stormtroopers chanting Thrawn's name, making it all about who has the most power, and literally that symbol of domination with that ship, you know, coming over and enclosing everything. Versus Ezra be like, we're hanging out in a field with friends that we've made, is so great. But for him as a character, I feel like one of the great parts of his arc in Rebels is he goes through his moments of darkness and doubt and all those things, but he just really sees the value in everyone. He sees that maybe there's more to Hondo. He gives Maul a chance. I think he kind of sees Maul's loneliness. He connects with the Lothal people. He connects with the Purgle, and even Kanan's like, just leave the weird space whales alone.
Yeah.
He is somebody who sees value in connection, and it works on a plot way, the rebel symbols, but I just love it as a character thing of him not going somewhere, not just making an alliance, but making a family and saying, we're all in this together. This symbol means we're in this together for one another. So yeah, it just shows a character who learned all his lessons, and whatever hell he went through on Pridia or escaping Thrawn, they didn't lead him back to the darkness. He leaned back on all the lessons we saw him learn in Rebels. Jennifer, how did you feel about who he has become based on what we saw?
I like that you say that it wasn't just an alliance, it was family. He's not using them. And he certainly is not, you know, what some people might do, which is go be a lone wolf, right? And go try and just survive on their own. He is resourceful, and he is charming and likable, and he's good at getting along with everyone, from creatures to people, right? And I think that it's just, I was inspired by his unwavering positivity. I was like, gosh, this guy could be really down. He's not. He's just like, here we are, living life, right? So
yeah, they even kind of set up the possibility, the tension. I remember people talking about it in between episodes of, is he going to be upset? Is he going to be concerned that Sabine undermined his sacrifice by possibly leading Thrawn back? And I would have taken a little bit more of a direct interaction between them. But what I take away from it is like, no, I understand. You did what you had to do, you know? So even that doesn't seem to upset him, even though, you know, some of the discussion in between episodes was, oh, is he going to be real upset about that? Nope. Ken, any favorite Ezra moments?
Other than when we first meet him, just how they're fighting, they're choosing at one point to not fight with the lightsaber, right? Even when offered by Sabine. You know, this is a series that does ask that big question of what does it mean to be a Jedi, and it shows up a lot of times through him, and he does end up, you know, building, retinkering, I guess you could say, a lightsaber later on. So it's that's a natural flow of it. But I like those moments where it really felt like Ezra, and you learn a lot about a character when they're fighting, right? That's the goal when you're writing it. The fight should expose something about them, and we learned again, confirmed maybe even where he was.
Yeah, Jen, any favorite Ezra moments?
I think just the moment that we first see him, it's just one of those things where it's like, we've been waiting for this moment, and obviously if you've watched Rebels, like, it has that extra weight to it. But I think he just had such great chemistry with Natasha Liu-Bordizzo. They really felt like old friends. And that's just, you can be a great actor, but there was just something natural where it really felt like that, you know, sibling love for each other.
Yeah, no, phenomenal actor. That hey Hera, you know, I'm home, really got to me emotionally. He played that so well. I loved his cool Force moves, and clearly having, like, I've learned to use this very, you know, defensively, offensively, of just the Force. I do think he's got a little bit of that, like, I go in with half a plan and lots of confidence, and then sometimes it falls apart. There's just a great kind of classic Han Solo hard luck hero that things 90% work out for him. And I do like that he makes a big proclamation that he doesn't need a blaster and then picks one up. I wouldn't have minded that being a little bit more of made a clear joke. But one of my favorite moments in all of Ahsoka, because it's new, I haven't seen it before, and it was a very funny Ezra moment, is when he starts out pretty confident and he's doing well. Then he needs to use the blaster, and then Shin cutting his hair was so great. I've never seen that, you know, in a lightsaber moment. And him being really like, you almost got me. It was so charming, and such a great action and comedy beat all in one, and character beat. All right, we are gonna head toward wrapping up. We're gonna talk briefly here about Chopper. We didn't get a ton of Chopper time, but Ken, what did you enjoy about Chopper's appearance?
Well, this actually is the answer for what is the most accurate jump from animation to live action. I know Chopper appeared to. I remember Rogue One. I remember Easter eggs. I loved it. I saw this tweeted out a lot. posted out when the show was first airing that Chopper was a little more clear, like you could actually hear more of his words. Whether true or not, it definitely had that effect on me once I saw that post. So yeah, I kind of liked that though. It was a fun live action change where now you actually hear some of the swear words. And one of my favorite moments was when Jason's talking to Hera, but you're on Hera, and then you hear Jason kind of talk to Chopper off mic, like, well, she says, that's so Chopper that he's like kind of like, yeah, ask her this.
Yeah, no, that is a great moment. Jen, what did you think of Chopper?
I thought it was great, and I like that they used it the right amount of Chopper that we needed, just the right amount of sass and kind of silliness, right? I thought at first, well, we need more Chopper. No, we don't. We had just the right amount, and I thought it was fun.
Yeah. I like seeing his little closet on the Ghost where he has a junk drawer. That just made sense to me, of a chaotic character with a junk drawer, and that did you move my tracking device? Like, no, I didn't go in your weird little junk drawer.
First of all, Joseph, stop looking at my studio. Number one.
I am opening my remote. Oh, that's where my ruler and expired credit cards are. Good to know. Oh, and my jury summons. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I did also like the moment where Xiono calls 3PO a mere droid, and it feels like Chopper's gonna fire his rocket.
Oh, yeah.
Carson Teva holds him back. That was a good one.
And the amount of people tweeting out the Michael Jordan, and I took that personally, meme is perfect for that.
There's some great Chopper memes in the community. There really, really were. There's obviously some other fun Rebel stuff. We got to see Clancy Brown play Ryder Azadi in live action. We saw social media comedy sensation Vinnie Thomas playing the character Jai Kell. Lots of live action Lothcat. Many people were concerned that Sabine had abandoned the Lothcat and there would be no one there to feed it. Filoni released comment saying, no, it was a wild Lothcat and it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It can get down. It knows how to work the elevators. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, smart cats.
So we're going a little bit long here, but Ken, any thoughts on those other small moments?
Love it. I love those kind of connections because they're not dominating the show. You know, this isn't a Star Wars is just about Star Wars moment. These are things that would be there and they make sense. The Lothcat I thought was great, and we all had this question in our house. We were very concerned about who was going to feed it, but I guess I'll take that answer. Specifically, I want to point out Clancy Brown as Ryder Azadi. When as the camera's like panning in and you hear him, I actually had a kind of a, yeah, that's great, of course. And that was something I enjoyed. And I would see more of him. He's a great character. Ryder Azadi's a great character. There's a lot to mine with that character if you want. So, hey, bring him back.
He needs to become a main character just because that's one of the coolest Star Wars names. Come on, Ryder Azadi. Like, yeah. And I love the Clancy Brown's long and twisted history with the Star Wars characters he's played. So that was great. Other than that, for me, the Lothcat, I love that it was, I think, mostly an animatronic and seamless and fun and really expressive of where Sabine was at. Jennifer, anything for you for these other little Rebel appearances?
Always love Clancy Brown. Love Vinnie Thomas. I got so excited because I'm always a fan of his comedic videos. The Lothcat was the star for me. There's a moment that the Lothcat like kind of wakes up and is stretching and its little body kind of shakes just like a cat. And I just felt like I want that. I want to pet the Lothcat.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final thoughts on live action Rebels? Obviously, particularly some of the big things, Sabine's arc, how the Force is used, Ezra's future. We'll be talking about all these things much more in the future. But any big picture thoughts on the live action debut of so many characters from Rebels? Ken?
There is understandably going to be some concern when a show is so loved, right? And started there. It isn't like Clone Wars where we had to adjust to the animated versions of Anakin and Obi-Wan or something, no matter what version of the Clone Wars you're watching. I understood some of the trepidation because I had it too. Like I said, a couple times over the last few years was like, I'd love to get a new series and finish in animation, not just because of how it looks, but because of those performers. And the Ashley Ecksteins and the Tia Sakars and Vanessa Marshalls and everyone being able to adapt and grow and mature with those characters well and take them places. That's something I think I will miss until maybe they do get a chance to do it. Tales of the Jedi has offered an opportunity for Ashley to come back and explore the character at different times in her life. So there's that stuff there that could still happen. But all that kind of fear, it's important to let it go. And I think once you get through it, I'm happy where we're at with it. Little things here along the way I do have with the series in terms of complaints or questions or any of that stuff. We can get to those some other time, but at the end of the day, this is where we are, and I like where we are with these characters.
Yeah, I think I want more of all the characters because I like them, and Sabine got to have a full character arc and end up in a different place, and I would love to be able to dig deeper on Hera and Ezra, and maybe even Chopper, and get Zeb back in the fold. But I think what I felt ultimately was this was Ahsoka's show, but it was also Rebels 2.0 in that it was resolving a plot thread explicitly introduced in Rebels.
Yeah.
But I'm not pining for a Rebels show because I think in one of the grand lessons of Star Wars, that's not where they are in life. These characters aren't ever going to be together again in that same way they were when it was that family, that time of the galaxy. And so this was kind of Rebels 2.0, but now these characters are all just characters in the galaxy who know each other, who love each other, who might interact, but might just go on to have their own complete stories. They are, you know, figures on a chessboard in a grand narrative. And I think Ezra might be the main character of Heir to the Empire film that Filoni's going to do. Maybe. Maybe Hera would have her own show someday. So I think it was great to resolve the plot thread of Rebels. And now I'm just really happy that these characters are in live action. They're on the board and they can go forward and pop up surprising and wonderful places. Jennifer?
I completely agree. It was kind of like getting everyone caught up to speed on who these characters are, what their journey has been. And now that we're all on the same page, now we can go on a new adventure. And initially when I was looking forward to this show, but then obviously with the strike and other things happening, I kind of had a little bit of my guard up when I first started watching this. But I had to let it down. And it was because of these strong performances that I just finally was like, you know what, this is great. And I was able to really get immersed into these stories. So bravo to all the actors, because that is a tough job, because those characters and those voice actors from Rebels were so beloved.
Yeah, absolutely. Final fun question. Ken, if you had to be exiled to another galaxy, which of these characters we've talked about today would you want to be exiled with?
It's the key to talk about today. For survival's sake, I think I would go with Ezra. But here's my one thing. It's not a complaint about the show or the character, but in real life, a person like Ezra sometimes can wear on me because I'm more of a darker soul. So as long as Ezra can respect my space when appropriate, I think I'd be okay and feel safe and secure that we're going to get through this together.
Yep. Yep. I think I don't want the answer to be this, but I'm feeling Chopper. Today I'm feeling Chopper. I'm feeling like I would like to be exiled with someone who will do anything. Not maybe a good Star Wars moral, but honest. Jennifer, who would you like to be exiled with?
With Ezra as well, because I have a tendency, I have a tendency when I'm in exile, I have a tendency to get a little Eeyore-ish, right? So I need someone to be positive and to lighten the mood and crack some jokes and be like, it's going to be all right. We're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Ezra and Chopper, both rays of sunshine who are here for us all in our exile. That's a look at the live action debut of the Rebels. Much more to come. Ken, where can people find us?
Hey, you can find us on Twitter and Threads at ForceCenter Pod. Our Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We are on Instagram and, of course, YouTube. You might be watching us here now. Subscribe if you're not. If you're listening, head over there and give us a like. Podcast available on a lot of spots. Acast, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and more. Merch is available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Don't forget, we have our live show on Friday. For me, you can go to at Ken Napzok across social media platforms. I posted once or twice on Blue Sky. I'm trying over there. I'm going to give it a go. My website, kennapzok.com, is where you can get information on all the things I do. Got a comedy show, 2 shows actually up in Seattle at the Capitol Hill Comedy /Bar. Taking information up there. Me, Mark Ellis, and Lisa Wallen. And hey, if you're a music fan, this Friday, 7-song EP from my band, the Moonagers. I got to say my own band name right. The Moonagers. You can get information on my website as well, or just go to themoonagers.bandcamp.com. Jen, where can I find you?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube at Jennifer Landa, TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There you go, Joseph. Great job today, as always. Take us home, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, you can find me on not all the social media. You can find me on some social media. Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, at Joseph Scrimshaw. If you are at all interested in helping support me and my production company, being able to make more films, and you are interested in comedy albums, it helps me a lot if you check out my comedy albums on Bandcamp. There's a link on my website, josephscrimshaw.com.
There you go. That's it. So for our friends, the naughty, the naughty, the naughty, yeah, we'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.